Today I'm in a massive rush. I'm heading to this Mexican restaurant in the neighboring city, uh, about 9 miles away. I called the owner just before I leave and asked if it's okay to show up at like 8:30 or just a little bit later because they close at 9 p.m. But the owner said it multiple times previously, if we have the customer, then we always open up after 9, passing 10, sometimes 12, and he said it's fine. But it's already 8:15, and I've been only on this road once before, so I'm really hoping I can make it by 8:40. We'll just see how fast this thing actually goes today. So while we're cruising, let me show you what's going up front. So on the top, on the left side, the blue thing on the LCD, that's the CHT thermocoupler sensor. It measures the temperature at the spark plug washer. Now this doesn't, it won't show exactly how hot it gets deep inside the cylinder, so you can't tell if it's running lean just by this number. But for future mods, I absolutely do need it, and it's gonna let me compare how hot the engine runs with the stock cylinder and the ported one, or when I eventually do the E85, so ethanol 85%. It's a huge thing in Iowa. Anyways, it's super cheap too. It's an accurate way of getting the to track the number of the soft seizure temperature and prevent them down the line. And you can tell that, yeah, here on the bottom, the top is the CHT, the bottom is the RPM tachometer that I've been wanting for ages. The first one I bought off from Amazon for $22, that one worked for 2 days and it didn't work anymore. So yeah, it's just kind of a loss. And then the second one that I bought from Temu, the one that I showed on the other video, that one has this massive 5-inch tach that wouldn't run at all with the ignition plug coiled. So I was so done with it, and on top of that, it was just like the sitting on my dash looked like a giant boss baby's head. So I scraped that idea, and I put the smaller one instead. Now this one is a waterproof and runs on an internal battery, so it lasts for a few years. And honestly, it's the perfect solution. I'm done with the needle tachos that don't work anymore. So as we're driving, it's kind of cruising. I want to talk a little bit about my history. Speaking of mods and repair, so my long-term plan for this channel is to keep juicing everything I can out of this 50cc vintage moped. Now remember, Honda built this engine, this Iowa edition, to max out at 25 miles an hour, and we're way past that now. I even hit 37 on a flat road with the new piston and the rings. But getting here wasn't so smooth. It goes back to last summer when I first bought this bike for $500. I had absolutely no idea how a carburetor worked. I didn't even know how a 2-stroke was different from a 4-stroke. But whatever that is, and I thought it was a cool bike. It was the coolest thing I've seen. I've always wanted to have a small bike, not a big bike, like a small 50 to 250 in that region for someone like who wanted a small, affordable, not one of those like ugly scooters, but like an actual Honda, and a masculine looking bike that doesn't look like a bicycle and goes anywhere with just a sip of gas. This was a perfect bike for me. So when it needed work, I asked a local mechanic. I won't say who it is or where the shop is, because that's not my focus here. When I met him, I had the impression of a really nice dude, just a chill guy in a local shop who doesn't charge me much, who knew what he was doing. I'm a very hands-on learner myself, but at the time I just wanted to ride it right away, and my life was very busy, so I handed it off. I just want a little happiness from this bike, and the verge of summer, before the summer goes away, I really wanted to ride this. So And most of all, he seemed very excited to take on this budget that we agreed on, which was $200. I knew that was tight, but with how things are, if he didn't want the job, I was happy to go with another shop that might charge me more, but would get it done for sure. So I wasn't trying to take advantage of his labor, and but that turned out to be a huge mistake. I really regret not watching YouTube videos from day one or finding the right manual for it. So I dropped it off in mid-August, and 2 months go by. October rolls around, and still no progress. After 2 months, I called him like 3 separate times for an update, and he finally tells me how frustrated he is with the auto choke, that his NC50, which is the predecessor to this Urban Express, doesn't have the choke he's used to, and so on. So my bike basically sat in the shop for a month and a half, and nothing really happened. And now he's starting working on something, and he's frustrated. So when he finally called me to pick it up, weeks after that call, and he charged me $214, that's with taxes, and told me how cheap the labor was and how he'd gotten everything fixed. And after 3 months of waiting, the summer's over, I was baffled, but I paid it. I mean, I told myself that at least it's fixed, you know? But it was totally wrong. I rode it back to my town, which was about 15 miles away. I stopped by the school in my office, and I came back an hour later. And when I came back out, it didn't start. I kick-started it forever, and it finally caught, and then died a mile down the road, right in the middle of traffic. I almost got into an accident when the fuel cut and the engine stalled. So I hauled it back and called him first thing in the morning on Monday. I was calm, but pretty upset, and his response really got me going again. But he was saying, I don't know, well, bring it back and I'll look at it. And no apology, no nothing, just I was the fault in the system, I was the inconvenience. So 2 weeks later, he tells me the fuel tank was rusty, and that clogged the carb. So I set an appointment for 3 p.m. to get it sorted, and I show up, and he immediately puts me to work he needs help on this other person's vehicle. And I said, yeah, why not? I mean, I still like this dude, you know. I don't really, it's really hard to hate people to me. So I ended up just waiting for an hour until that customer shows up for that truck, because he was working on that. I mean, he's the only one working, so I understood. But losing 2 hours of my time since I started working on my bike finally at 5, it really got me upset a little bit. I should have really spoken up instead of just going along with it every time he asked, can you wait, and so on. So for 3 months, I've been deep in YouTube and manuals, learning how the CVT scooters work and two-stroke work, and I also read the manual myself. And standing there, I just thought, yeah, I can just get it fixed right now. So I opened up the CVT cover and swapped the belt to BX31 on that site, and I also changed the roller weight from 78 grams to 36 grams. It was pretty simple. It wasn't bad at all, and I had this regrets and this victory of like, oh man, the system is actually beautiful. I should have paid more attention to it instead of, me naively thinking that it's going to be fixed all of a sudden. So he was just kind of watching at it and kind of entertained. He didn't actually fix or help me with anything for 2 hours. He just scrolled his phone, smoking a lot, drank a lot of energy drinks. It's piled up in the side of the shop. He chatted with other people coming through and back, and told me all these. He was telling me like all the personal, sad stories that it kind of made me feel for him. And then after that, he claimed that he put 3 to 4 hours of labor or half a day of work, and tried to charge me around $400 for it, and I refused. We argued, and I ended up paying $50 and $30 for parts, and on top of the $214 that he charged me in the first place. And I think, but it was still a rip-off considering all the time, gas. And here's the thing, and I started to notice this about how he operates. He has his number in his head before you walk in. If you don't need it, he doesn't argue the work. He turns it personal. He gets close to you, lowers his voice a little, starts telling you how hard it's been. He's running this whole place alone, how there's 100 other jobs and 100 other people lined up, all of them waiting on him, all of it on his shoulders. So, and then it lands like you're really taking advantage of me, and it kind of works for a second, but because some of it is kind of true. He's alone. It's a lot, and the shop needs a lot of work. But that's the move. He's not pricing the labor anymore. He's pricing your guilt. By the time he's done, you're not negotiating the repair. You're apologizing for existing in his shop. And if you're a decent person, that gets you. So you start reaching for your wallet just to make the discomfort stop. And that's what it's really like in a small shop sometimes. Not all shops, but the bottom line is, it's ridiculous. But I mean, nobody really cares more about your bike than yourself. So I think that kind of makes sense too. And looking back at it, I'm almost glad that it happened, because that whole experience is exactly why I finally opened the manual myself and I read the whole thing. It's the reason I learned how these little engines breathe. It's how I figured out how a CVT actually shifts, how to tune a carb, how to swap jets, and I learned fascinating histories about Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki, Kawasaki, and just about the Japanese industrialization after World War II, which is really fascinating. If you haven't seen those videos or read books, and some of the other ones, it's really fascinating, and I really like their endurance and perseverance. So, yeah, that's how I really deeply respect the system. And I'm just really happy and privileged to work on this bike, and I later on in life, in this video at least, I like to show more long distance rides, and I do want to hit 40 miles an hour on the stock setting with the stock exhaust, the stock cylinder, the stock NOS piston and the rings, and the stock 16-inch front tire and the 14-inch tire. Now, the 14-inch tire can be swapped to 16-inch tire, since I have a Baseman Urban Express that I bought for $250 last year, for parts. I can swap that 14-inch hub into the front 16-inch, and then I can just buy the 16-inch tire that's a little bit fatter than the front tire. So in that case, a little bit of torque is being compromised and transferred to RPM. And I'm a pretty small rider. I weigh roughly 150, 160 pounds, and that's gonna really get me. Like if it goes like 37 on a flat after the total engine rebuild with the 16-inch wheel and the E85, I'm genuinely hoping that this machine is capable of going above 40 miles an hour. And I can honestly tune the roller from currently 42 grams to 36 grams, or even lower. It could be 33 grams. But the bottom line is, reading the tachometer, the engine can can go up to 7,400 RPM. So it doesn't really go up to 8,000 RPM, but it can go up to 7,500. So with the better compression, current compression is 100 to 115 psi. With the 180 plus psi, that's the manual says 158 to 213. I think the engine can rev a little bit higher, or even just the same RPM, but has a massive amount of torque. And that torque can be used to drive the 16-inch rear wheel instead of 14-inch rear wheel. And all that said, I think we're getting closer to the final mod of this moped. So we're almost there. You can see I'm at the entrance getting into the new town. This is a little bit of downhill, so I saw the RPM goes up to 78 to 8,000. And you can tell the CHD sensor stops, it kind of makes the equilibrium temperature at around 100 to 105. And that's the kind of the line that I'm looking for. Or a little bit higher. I wanted somewhere around 110 to 130 if that's making it more efficient. But with E85, since alcohol evaporates a lot faster than gasoline, it may cool the engine off a little more, but also it kicks more. So we'll see how things go. Alrighty, we just made it in time. It's about 8:40, and we just made it to the downtown area. This is where the restaurant is. I'm ready to dog down the authentic Mexican food to, yeah. Lovely. Alright, so I ate like a king. Now it's time to go back. The food was incredible. You can tell I ordered the Mexican fajitas, and I ate the whole thing. It's just amazing. Now I got 20 minutes right back in the dark. You can see the sun's hiding over the horizon. The air's it has a little sharp chill to it, so I should have wore a little bit thicker and better. So yeah, we'll go for another 20-minute ride, and thank you very much for watching this video. And I have plenty of other mods and top speed runs coming for the Urban Express, And so please stick around. I'll see you guys next one.